Hello and welcome to Region Weather Live, your online streaming platform for weather across the Dakotas and Minnesota. I'm meteorologist Brad Warner, and let's go ahead and take a look at the weather. There's the system that's wrapping up and moving on out of our area. Still a little bit of snow across the southern parts of Minnesota and out ahead of the Arrowhead region right now. But interesting enough, as you take a look at this, look at where the fetch is from for what's left of this system. It's way out here along the east coast. It comes way out and then back in and gets wrapped around in here. So that pretty much tells you there's not a lot of energy left when it's trying to pull moisture from that far out. So now you can see that low pressure system that's currently situated right over Lake Michigan begins to quickly move to the northeast and sort of reforms just south of Hudson Bay. Now, as we go through the overnight and right around the midday time frame for Friday afternoon, you can see that some of these isobars are still fairly close, these black lines here. So that means the pressure is still a little bit tight. It's not as much as it has been the last couple of days, but still seeing some of those breezy conditions continuing throughout Minnesota and possibly far eastern parts of the Dakotas as well. Once you get further out to the west, we get a little bit more of a return, a southerly flow, and some clearing skies out here as well. So I think central and western portions of the Dakotas will probably begin to see a pretty nice day on Friday. And as we move that system along and we continue to move that a little bit further off to the east, and we get into Friday night and more so into Saturday, we've talked about these red lines before and how they mean, these dash lines. And when they're red, that means a little bit warmer. And when they're blue, that means it's a little bit cooler temperatures. And you can see this ridge that basically develops right across the Dakotas and begins to move its way eastward. So what that basically means is for Saturday, we're looking at a pretty nice day across the entire region. Really, Saturday's looking like one of our better days throughout the weekend. And just taking a little look at the expected wind gusts here overnight, and you can see kind of how they hang on in the eastern parts of North Dakota, South Dakota, and in through Minnesota. And as we get into the early parts of Friday morning, wind gusts generally 20 to 35 miles per hour across the eastern Dakotas and into Minnesota. Once we get into the afternoon here, they start to decrease even more. And then for sure, once we get into the early parts of Friday evening, those winds really begin to decrease. Then once we get more into Saturday, you can see a little bit breezier conditions during the day on Saturday, but really not too bad at all. As we take a little bit closer look into things, here we are in Saturday morning. And you can see there is a weak little disturbance that moves into western parts of North Dakota. That might bring a little bit of rain and snow in there. I think maybe mostly rain, because really Saturday looks like a pretty decent day. Maybe a passing shower like that might come through. It really doesn't look like much. Maybe the bigger story a little bit might be more on Sunday, and kind of keeping an eye on this little disturbance that moves through. And this one on Sunday is actually going to serve a dual purpose. And I'll tell you why after a little bit. But initially this storm kind of comes up, or this little disturbance comes out on Sunday and into Sunday afternoon, and we'll bring a little bit of rain and snow mix out there. There might be some accumulations in northwestern parts of Minnesota through the late morning hours on Sunday into early afternoon hours, if it does snow enough, or heavy enough. But I think most of this is going to be kind of a rain with a little bit of a snow mix in there. So really nothing that I'm too concerned about on Sunday. But man, the interesting thing is what it actually winds up doing for this storm coming later in the week. All right, here is the fun part, and that is to talk about the possibility of a large system impacting our area by midweek. Now, I mentioned earlier that this little disturbance that's coming through our area on Sunday will serve a dual purpose, and here's why. Here it is on Saturday as it's kind of digging its way into the Western Rockies. And we're getting into Saturday night to Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. And you notice basically what it does is it helps kind of carve out a trough in through here as it moves through. As we move this along into Sunday evening, there's our little system moving out. So we already have this trough in through here. Now, mind you, we already have this system further out into the east that we're trying to get rid of. So which means in between this area, we have a ridge that begins to pinch in between. So we've kind of got our blocking system in here, which creates this ridge, which holds up things further back to the west. We already have a trough in through here. So really the only thing that this next system that comes ashore can do is to continue to deepen that trough and sag further south and really dig into some energy, because the atmosphere is getting very bunched up. It's getting very clogged up. And that's kind of what it's honing in on. The thing that the models didn't do as well before is estimate the amount of potential that this Sunday storm will bring. It didn't really hone in on it. So that's kind of what has happened. That's the shift. That's the switch that has happened. Now, another interesting thing to look at, this is temperature anomalies at about 5,000 feet. But one thing that we need to look at is these storms thrive off of temperature differences. The higher the temperature differences from one spot to another means these lows will intensify. So it really needs a variance in temperatures. So again, here's what this Sunday storm does. When it comes through, it drops a little bit of cooler air across the western parts of the United States and into the northern parts, north central parts, and in through our region as this kind of moves out. It drops a little bit cooler air. Now, in the meantime, because the atmosphere is getting so backed up, it's allowing time. Well, let me change the colors here so you can see it. It's allowing time for this warm air to get dragged to the north. As this system ejects out and this system gets going further out to the west, this warm air, all this warm air from Texas and Oklahoma and down from the Gulf, the moisture gets dragged up with it. So now what we're going to wind up having as we move into the Tuesday time frame and more so into Wednesday, you're going to have this large difference. You're going to have all this hot air out here and then this cold air really digging in and scooping out this low pressure out of the Rockies. And then that's really what is interesting here. I mean, these are the fun things. This is, and when you talk about meteorology and yep, it's severe weather is great. But man, I honestly, I don't remember the last time we had a good Colorado low. I mean, my memory is bad. Maybe it's been shorter than I remember. But I don't remember a good Colorado low. And that's what's kind of fun with these is there's so much stuff going into play. Just that Sunday storm played so much of a role in digging out a trough out in the west and bringing in some cooler air and allowing this warmer air to get out ahead of it. And now look at this. Now we've got all this colder air really trenching in and scooping that low pressure out. And what had happened before when it didn't really pick up on the differences in these temperatures is it didn't intensify the system enough, and it allowed the system to sort of drag further off to the east. So instead now what you've got is you've got this warm air really holding things up while this cold air is trying to scoop the low pressure out. So the only place it has to go is to the north. And that's why it has now pushed this system further back to the west. All right, surface-wise, what are we looking at? Here is Tuesday afternoon. Here's that low pressure sitting through central parts of Colorado, and the snow and the rain beginning to develop in through parts of South Dakota. Now, by Tuesday evening into Tuesday night is when it looks like this low is expected to move out of the Rockies and into the southern plains and begins its quick trek to the north and east. Now, here we are Wednesday evening, and you can see a few things here. Obviously, we have all this rain in through the central parts of the plains up through southern parts of Minnesota. We're talking about the potential of maybe some severe weather in spots, possibly in southern Minnesota. And then you've got this transition of purple in through here, and then this band of snow. And now notice, I guess, one thing to point out is it's not a very widespread band, at least of this model, but it could be a heavy band, and you can see how things really get wound up. So that's the potential. Now, I had posted something earlier about this storm system on Facebook, and my wife was very surprised. She goes, I'm surprised you posted something about a storm system when it's that far out. She said, like, normally I don't do that, and I don't, because if it's more than 4 days out, I hate to really get hyped about it, because it bugs me when people get overhyped about things, because you just don't know what's going to happen. But basically, I told her, I said, yep, there's still some variability out there. This thing could obviously change. I said, but what has me concerned is what is the possibility of it. I mean, we're looking at the possibility of areas seeing over 12 inches of snow. And while that's not uncommon, I'm talking about a long area. You're looking here on this particular model in particular, where you're looking way up from the northeastern parts of Minnesota all the way down through western Minnesota and in through eastern South Dakota. Not to mention how this kind of started off, it looked like there probably could be even some heavier snows in the south. Not saying that's where it'll be, but I mean, just there has the potential of being a broad area, a long area of places that could see over a foot of snow. Not to mention you have the possibility of freezing rain. You're going to have a lot of wind on the backside of this. There's the potential of severe weather out ahead of this. So it's one of those systems that in the right spots, I'm fairly certain some areas, either in South Dakota or Minnesota or both, you're going to have schools called off for 2 days in a row, because there's going to be an area out there that just received too much snow and, too much wind over a couple of days that, there's not going to be school. So, again, I hate to say where exactly, because it is so far out. It's looking like, South Dakota probably has a pretty good chance of seeing some snow. I would think there will be a location somewhere in Minnesota that has a decent chance, maybe not as good a chance as South Dakota, but a decent chance of seeing a foot of snow and having some school called off. North Dakota is a little more the variability. That's going to be the tough one. There may not be. I mean, it's just that one's a little more tougher to call right now. Is North Dakota. I showed you the other night of just how the ensembles, that the model that takes all the different types, a model as and says where are the low pressure systems at this time, or where's the low centered. So this is Wednesday night at midnight. You can see all the dots and all the variable models that show where the low might be centered. And then this particular model, this ensemble, just takes the average of all that and says, okay, well, this is the middle of everything. So you can see, yesterday it was more out here. Now it's further back and is pushing to the northeast. So you could see what has changed. And I don't like making a big hype out of this, but it's very interesting. It's so cool how Sunday's storm will have an impact on this large system that could develop, and how this system might have the potential of dropping, a widespread area of over a foot of snow. And, we're talking, like I said, school cancellations, all that fun stuff. So we're going to have to keep an eye on it, where exactly this will be. I think what Sunday's storm does, or what Sunday's little system does, will help sort of determine it in a way. But, we might not know really until Sunday, maybe even Monday, where exactly this is. All right. Thank you for watching me tonight. This is Brad Warner with Region Weather Live. Please, please, please do me a favor. If you like this at all, if you found this very useful, or just a little bit useful, hit the subscribe button below. That does wonders for my channel. It doesn't mean you have to watch me every night. it just helps my channel out, and it helps it get noticed. Between subscribing and liking, that really helps me out quite a bit. So I'm hoping that by giving you this heads up and kind of describing my geekiness and just the potential of what this storm could be, helps you out. And so just do me a favor and help me out a little bit. All you got to do is just click down below. So that's all I really need. So I thank you all for tuning in. And hopefully we will see you either tomorrow evening for probably a quick update, and then for sure on Sunday. Have a good one.